Hello everybody, this is Richard Stashy, and in the background you can hear my dog breathe. These are the things that kind of happen when you're trying to make a video at the off hours. This is going to be a Lolita video, and I am going to be responding to a question that somebody had posted on Reddit. I'm going to have my friend Mr. Irons to read the passages because I know that I suck at reading. This person said, I'm confused with a specific sentence in Lolita. Would be a great help if anyone could kindly help. Okay, this person said that when I was reading Lolita, I came across a difficult part that I could not comprehend. It was the 18th chapter. I pasted here. I'm confused with the entire sentence. So it'll be extremely helpful if someone can help me. Alright, and then I'm going to have Mr. Irons read this part.
When the bride is a widow and the groom is a widower, when the former has lived in our great little town for hardly 2 years, and the latter for hardly a month, when Monsieur wants to get the whole damn thing over with as quickly as possible, and Madame gives in with a tolerant smile, then, my reader, the wedding is generally a quiet affair. The bride may dispense of a tiara of orange blossoms securing her fingertip veil, nor does she carry a white orchid in a prayer book. The bride's little daughter might have added to the ceremonies uniting H&H a touch of vivid vermeil, but I know I would not dare be too tender with cornered Lolita yet, and therefore agreed it was not worthwhile tearing the child away from her beloved Camp Q. My soi-disant, passionate and lonely Charlotte was in everyday life matter-of-fact and gregarious. Moreover, I discovered that although she could not control her heart or her cries, she was a woman of principle. Immediately after she had become more or less my mistress, despite the stimulants, her nervous, eager chérie, a heroic chérie, had some initial trouble, for which, however, he amply compensated her by a fantastic display of old-world endearments. Good Charlotte interviewed me about my relations with God.
And then at the end of it, he says, I'm confused about the part within the brackets. What does her nervous, eager chérie means here? Because I feel like it's not simply dear or darling. Lolita is an interesting story told by an unreliable narrator. In this case, I believe Humphrey is purposely deceiving the reader. Why? Depends if you got the idea what Humphrey's true nature is. Mr. Irons, read this part.
When the bride is a widow and the groom is a widower, when the former has lived in our great little town for hardly 2 years, and the latter for hardly a month, when Monsieur wants to get the whole damn thing over with as quickly as possible, and Madame gives in with a tolerant smile, then, my reader, the wedding is generally a quiet affair.
My reader, the wedding is generally a quiet affair. Sets a scandalous tone, but hides a lethal twist. Humphrey's rush to get the whole damn thing over isn't just a wedding jitters, it's an attack. And Charlotte's tolerant smile is a lie to mask her resistance or ignorance of his intent. The quiet affair isn't a discreet ceremony, it's a silent murder. With Humphrey spinning it to keep us thinking she's alive, he's banking on the scandal angle to distract from the blood in his hands. Mr. Irons, read this part.
The bride may dispense of a tiara of orange blossoms securing her fingertip veil, nor does she carry a white orchid in a prayer book.
This isn't about a simple wedding. Humphrey's use of may and nor signals nothing happened. No ceremony, no bride. It's a shy confession that the wedding's a sham, hinting Charlotte's already out of the picture, dead before any vows. He dangles the tradition absence to cover that there is no living bride to dress up. Mr. Irons, read this part.
The bride's little daughter might have added to the ceremonies uniting H&H a touch of vivid vermeil, But I know I would not dare be too tender with cornered Lolita yet, and therefore agreed it was not worth while tearing the child away from her beloved Camp Q.
This is a tangled mess of Humford lies. It's tricky. Charlotte's a devoted Catholic. Earlier chapters show her faith, so excluding Lolita from the wedding makes no sense. She insisted her daughter to be there, not off at some camp, unless there's no wedding to begin with. Humford's cornered Lolita slips out. Why is she cornered if she's away? And beloved Camp Q feels forced, like he's overselling it. Dolores never gushes out camp in the book, so beloved could hint that the person or place he's twisting. Maybe her bedroom or her friend's house, not a real camp. Keeping her close while he's dealing with Charlotte. It's all a warped excuse to mask that Lolita's not at camp and there's no ceremony, just a crime scene. Mr. Irons, read this part.
My soi-disant, passionate and lonely Charlotte was in everyday life matter-of-fact and gregarious.
Humford shyly painted Charlotte as a dull, herd-like figure, masking a darker jab. The soi-disant, self-styled, mocks her passion as fake, while gregarious hints at a sheep-like comfy, suggesting he sees her as disposable livestock he can control or slaughter. It is subtly dehumanizing, setting her up as prey in his twisted narrative. Mr. Irons, read this part.
Moreover, I discovered that although she could not control her heart or her cries, she was a woman of principle.
This part carries a grim double edge. Her loud screams, cries, catches Humford off guard, hinting of a violent struggle. Could not control her heart, could mean it stopped. Death. While she was shifts to a past tense, suggesting she's gone, and woman of principle implies that she fought fiercely, likely to shield Lolita. It's Humford accidentally revealing a murder dressed up as a character note. Mr. Irons, read this part.
Immediately after she had become more or less my mistress, despite the stimulants.
This suggests a rush, murky ship. Humford's more or less hints at force, not romance, to the stimulus aren't for passion but to drug Charlotte, maybe to subdue or kill her. The speed immediately feels like he's covering a violent act, not a seduction. It's a dark setup for something lethal, not love. Mr. Irons, read this part.
Her nervous, eager chérie, a heroic chérie, had some initial trouble, for which, however, he amply compensated her by a fantastic display of old-world endearments.
The twist is darker than it seems. Charlotte's nervous state isn't love, it's the drug making her jittery and desperate, and the heroic mocks her futile fight against him. He distances himself like it's a monstrous side act, and the old world endearments isn't sweet. It's a sarcastic nod to the brutal caveman-style beating, amply meaning overkill. She's not wooed, she's battered, and he's laughing at it. Mr. Irons, read this part.
Good Charlotte interviewed me about my relations with God.
This lands like a quiet bombshell. Humford's past tense interviewed and good tags her as gone. The dead woman whose last act was a desperate stand against his evil, maybe grasping out as he finishes her. He smirks at her corpse, framing it as a pretentious quack to hide the murder. Alright, before I get sidetracked too much, I do want to point out that he amply compensates her by the fantastic display of old world endearments. When I was really thinking about it, this was definitely out of the box thinking. The writer, Novikov, took the trope of the caveman courtship. He twisted it in such a way that the reader does not know that this is an act of violence. If you have any questions or comments, please post them in the comments and I'll be happy to discuss them. This is Richard Stashy from the Tinker to Tales. Thanks for watching this video, and hopefully it won't be so long for the next one.